And so, as a young birder, you don't have a driver's license or your own car and your own money to go around and just do it all on your own. So you have to kind of work around it with family and, like integrate what they want to do. And, I have a younger sibling who's a bit impatient with me when I go birding sometimes. So, you have to take into consideration, stuff they want to do compared to what you want to do. And then, the time and the money as well.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Birding Today podcast, where birders come together to discuss the joy of birding. This is a brand new season 2, and I'm excited to get back into it after a small break. I've actually moved up to the Coffs Coast from Melbourne. So I'm not in Melbourne anymore, so the discussions might be a bit different around the local bird life, but I'm really interested in getting into more podcasting, more episodes, more very interesting guests. So thanks for being along for the ride, and let's get right into it because I'm excited for today's guest. So today's guest is an avid birder who loves getting out into nature whenever he can. He has graduated high school and is now applying to do a Bachelor of Zoology at university. He has also teamed up with me to start our own young birders group here on the Coffs Coast. But he also dreams of being able to go travelling and birding around Australia more generally and even abroad. And his name is Jack Morgan, and he's become a friend of mine, a great mate. So please welcome him on. How are you doing, Jack?
Good. How are you, Guillaume?
Doing well, thank you. Yeah, and excited to get into this episode. So I want to start right off the bat, as listeners will know, I'd like to start with the question of what aspect of birding brings you the most joy?
I love this question. So I think for me, what I love the most, the joy of birding, it really comes from being able to appreciate each and every species you see and all their different adaptations and all of their biology and then also being able to experience it with other birders as well. I think when you really get a couple of close mates together and you get to share that experience and the joy and the excitement rush into their faces and you go, wow, that's really cool. I love that about birding, and I think you can definitely agree with that as well.
No, absolutely. And it's again, we already have a topic that we're familiar with on the show, which is that birding is as much about people as it is about birds. It's the intermingling of relationships and travel and amazing natural experiences that we get from birding. And like you said, having great mates like that, like you and I, for example, it just kind of, going birding with someone is really kind of a platform to amplify the joy and the wonder you get, for sure. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, for sure, definitely.
Yeah. And so this particular episode, I wanted to focus on a particular topic, which is young birders, because I reckon it's an interesting subject to talk about, especially because we're both young and we both love birds. We're big birders and we're competent birders. So tell me a bit about that. How did you get into birding as a young birder, first of all?
Yeah, so I didn't actually start birding properly until 2018, which was just under 4 years ago now, when I was introduced to eBird. But before that, as a very young kid, I was watching all the David Attenborough documentaries and everything. I loved the video aspect, actually, like you do. And, for I think since 2017, I've started up a nature channel where I recorded videos of birds and other wildlife before I actually started birding, before I actually kind of properly knew what it was. And so, from a very young age, I've been, going through field guides and, getting really excited, going, wow, look at that species, look at that species. And I've even got this old scrapbook with me where I've got a list in very large writing of local species I've got in the backyard. So I'll read a couple out. So Monday of no specific month or year, I have 10 Australian wood duck, 6 magpie larks, 6 king parrots, and a bunch of other species as well. But I didn't even know that was birding necessarily. That was just me putting down what species I saw and going, oh, that's really cool,
Yeah.
So yeah, and it wasn't until an American friend of mine actually introduced me to eBird, and then I discovered what eBird was, and then through eBird, I've been developing as an actual birder, going off and doing twitches and stuff like that, and learning all the terminology and
Yeah,
everything.
that's so cool, and I really understand the natural inclination towards that when you're a little kid, because it was the same with me. Like, you get fascinated with the field guides and the reading the books and the illustrations and the photos, and
Yeah.
just being so excited about it all. And but was there a particular person or experience that kind of solidified your passion, or was it more gradual as you got older?
I think, like, as I was saying, like, I was always into, wildlife and bird life, especially, from a young age. So I kind of already always had that curiosity to, like, always see and go, "Ooh, what's that bird?" And then actually look it up in a field guide or something, and then, like, learn from myself that way. And then, so I guess really eBird was just like the next natural stepping stone up from that, where I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So I've got all this kind of prior knowledge that I've kind of gathered over the years, and I'm like, okay, now I can actually like implement this into birding, seriously, which is really awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Absolutely. That's so cool. And for those who are listening on Spotify or on any other streaming platform, if you go to YouTube and watch the video version, which you can do, you can see Jack hold up his beautiful little notebook. Hold it up again just to see. Because I noticed there was the square-tailed kite at the end there, that's a good bird. Is that right? Square-tailed kite? Yeah, there it is. That's awesome.
Yeah. And then on the other side, we have some little pictures I've actually taken out of other books and stuff, and some stickers. There's a rose-crowned fruit dove up the top. There's a plumed whistling duck, wedge-tailed eagle, and a rainbow lorikeet, and then this random grasshopper.
Yeah. That's just so brilliant. So just to finish up on that, the list that you have there when you were a kid, so are those the birds you saw on that particular Monday?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Wow, that's so cool. And you were able to identify them and just kind of... Do you remember how old you were?
It must have been at least, I'm judging by the size of the writing and the badness of it. I think maybe when I was like 7, 8, 9, around that age, I think.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah.
That really is cool, and it sort of leads me on to the next topic that I wanted to touch on with you, which is, as young birders that kind of grow up as young birders, do you think there are any particular challenges or disadvantages to being a young birder in a hobby that's probably predominated by older people?
Yeah. So I reckon, I think the biggest challenge as a younger birder is, of course, being able to travel to different locations, especially like far away or like, across the continent or something, on like big kind of holiday trips. And so, as a young birder, you don't have a driver's license or your own car and your own money to go around and just do it all on your own. So you have to kind of work around it with family and, like integrate what they want to do. And, I have a younger sibling who's a bit impatient with me when I go birding sometimes. So, you have to take into consideration, stuff they want to do compared to what you want to do. And then, the time and the money as well, to have your parents, basically be your taxi driver and take you around to these different locations. Yeah. So I guess that's where like having another birding friend as well would come in, so they can, you can plan it with them and they can take you instead, which works out quite well. But
yeah.
And then the other thing as well is I guess the time as well. You have to, plan times around, again, like family matters and other stuff as well. But I guess as well for like, other adults as well, because they have to do jobs as well. So I guess it's kind of the same for them with like time management and planning as well. But yeah, I guess for the younger birders specifically, it's really just being able to have the people to be able to take you these places, Yeah.
So what you're saying is that it's mostly what would you call it? A travel restriction. That's the biggest
a
problem.
travel restriction. Yeah.
For sure. And I was going to say before, you touched on something kind of interesting. Well, it made me think of the fact that there are also different categories of young birders, Like, for example, you have, like you illustrated, you have the step where you get your driver's license and your own car. That, like, changes everything. So in some sense, you've got different categories of young birders. Like, for example, I have a driver's license. I have my own vehicular transport, and so that's also something to consider as well. That the journey,
older young birders,
the journey evolves. Yeah, older young birders. Yeah, I'm an old young birder. But yeah, it's interesting that you touch on that, and there are disadvantages. For sure. I think financial situations in young birders is a bit of a problem sometimes, when you're not earning quite enough to go where you'd like to go. But then again, you have the local birding that you can do more of. So yeah. To stay up to date with new episodes of the Birding Today podcast, please follow Birding Today on Facebook and Instagram, as well as subscribing to the YouTube channel. So let's flip it around a little bit and talk about the advantages and benefits of being a young birder. What would you say to that?
Actually, yeah, I think one of the best benefits to being a young birder, despite the travel, is actually, I think, especially for those younger birders, maybe like lower than 15 years old, that kind of age bracket, you really have a lot of freedom. Like, you don't have to work on like final exams. Like I've recently just finished up doing the HSC and graduating high school. So, you don't have to worry about senior years, studying and then through like university as well and other commitments and jobs. So as a younger birder, you can just, go out in the backyard, or when your family's out on the weekend or something, you can just go birding and do whatever you want, really. And so I think you definitely get that freedom. But as well as that, I think, again, for like the younger birders, I think when you're at that younger age, you get that kind of nostalgic, that memory of it, that kind of essence of birding as a young person. And like, you really get enriched with wildlife at a young age. And I think that's really important as well. But like that kind of joy, like goes for your entire life as well. So, older birders as well, for sure. It's that same kind of experience as well. But yeah.
That's a really good point. Like the joy that we were talking about at the beginning, that some people acquire when they're very young, such as ourselves. I think that joy doesn't change very much. When as you age, even when you get to your 50s, 60s, or 70s. Of course, we don't know that, personally speaking. But what I suppose and what I imagine happens is that the joy kind of stays with you. As soon as you get the birding bug. And as soon as you're exposed to the joy of birding, I think it can't really leave you if it's the pure joy that we're talking about.
Yeah.
And
if you like really feel it, I reckon, it will just last with you forever. And I mean, I understand if some people like kind of phase out of it in and out a little bit, but that's okay as well. Because I mean, I think that it's that core kind of passion and love. And, when you notice and you're curious and you go, oh, what's that? I think you don't even have to be a serious birder. You can just be someone who enjoys wildlife, in their casual time, and it will still be there. And I think that's really important. And I think that's a good thing to, carry on with you throughout your life.
For sure. And I think sticking with the advantages and benefits of young birders, young people, generally speaking, I think, and especially in this day and age with social media and connectivity, I think young birders are quite good at staying connected and meeting new people as well. So the reason I bring that up is that I've had experiences where, I'm actually in a shared house at the moment. And we have a couple of friends who've just left. But as soon as I met them, it was like, they noticed I was into birds. I showed them my bird guide. I showed them my YouTube channel with the bird videos and, just even conversations about birds. And, one day they come back and say, hey, we saw this really weird bird. I tried to take a picture of it, you know, and people are really engaged by it if they're exposed to it in the right way, you know.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I think that's a great thing to bring up with like the online connectivity with other birders. I think a real advantage that our younger generations have, I guess, compared to, you know, like older generations, is just how easy it is to meet someone online. Because I mean, we literally first met each other through the comment section on your YouTube channel, and, you know, met up through there. So that's a great example of it, you know, meeting someone else online, you know. And I think, because like as well, another personal experience for me just recently, you know, getting Facebook, because I'm not a huge social media person, but I think having access to Facebook and other social medias as well is like this like holy grail tool to actually branch out and then like share and meet other birders who might live like right on the other side of the continent, but like you can have these great conversations and like enjoy the passion of birding, you know, like right next to each other through your computer. And I think that's just amazing as well. I mean, like, and sharing rarities as well and other, you know, sightings. So yeah, that's something that's definitely, I think, boosting the birding community. And then also, I think also kind of advertising it in a way as well. So I think that could be a really great way to kind of entice more people into it and then get them excited too as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, staying connected online is a big part of today's world, isn't it? And birding, the birding community is no exception, you know, like all these Facebook groups with thousands of members every day growing, you know. It's really interesting to see how that's changed as well. And I think it's not only young birders that benefit from that, you know, like.
Yeah, for sure.
I think the whole birding community kind of has something, you know, there's something good about being online and being on the Facebook groups and encouraging each other for the photos and your information and things like that. So yeah, there's just so much to kind of talk about. And there's a question that popped into my head when we were discussing all this is, well, it's a two-part question. I love two-part questions. Do you think there are? Well, I'll rephrase that. There are less young birders than older birders.
I can agree with that.
Why do you think that is?
Yeah, I'm actually not too sure. Because I think, I don't know, because I think, like, yeah, as you say, the majority of birders tend to be, you know, older, kind of around that middle age bracket. And I think, you know, that could be to do with maybe finding that newfound passion later in life, maybe. But, you know, coming from me being a young birder, I don't really know from personal experience. But yeah, I think there's kind of maybe a lack these days. Oh, maybe not a lack, but maybe just maybe not enough people at a younger age, you know, with that passion coming together, maybe, or something like that, where I feel like there's just kind of not enough younger birders, and, you know, and other like minority groups and other, you know, things like that. But yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting you bring that up, because it's also, it does link to what we were talking about staying connected online. You know, there's, you know, I want to use the word sinister. There is a sinister side to this connectivity, this constant online presence, is that, you know, because of that, you also don't go outdoors as much. I would argue, true. Because young people are always connected on their phones and, you know, their computers and you know, that's great, but it does mean that there is that sometimes a lack of balance of being able to do other things, you know, because it's a really tricky one, because the online opportunities that we were talking about, the Facebook groups, you know, Discord servers, YouTube channels, videos, discussions, online chats, Zoom meetings that we're doing, podcasts, you know, all that's really amazing, but you do need to go outside and leave your screen at some point.
Yeah. Yeah.
So maybe that's where some of the problem is with young people, you know, not leaving their digital side behind, and heading outside into the forest, But I don't know. I don't know if that makes sense. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you got a really good point there. Just how much screen time people have, and I'm not we weren't saying that there aren't as many people who love nature as there are, or there used to be, but more so, I think just the just actually getting outdoors more. I think that's a crucial thing, and also not making people think that birding is weird or anything, the maybe social stigma around it. Maybe people think, that's weird. This guy's, looking at birds all day. What a weird thing to do. I don't know anybody who's thought that personally or anything, but, that could be a factor where, some people might be afraid to kind of really get into that core nature and wildlife aspect, just because some people might not kind of think that's a cool thing, and they might want to fit in or something. That could be something where young people face a bit more these days, so that could be another thing.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And actually, when I was younger, when I was it's school, in the school age, I don't really remember when exactly, but I do remember having that feeling of, I don't really want to tell anyone I'm into birds, because it's kind of weird and kind of embarrassing, and what are you, because nobody's doing that. And I think that is a really powerful human emotion, fear of rejection and fear of not being part of the group. And that's really, and that's amplified in young people, I think. And if you think about the school setting and groups, and it can be pretty intense. Kids can be really kind of mean with each other sometimes, and I think that's a big part of why. You see where I'm going with that, where it's kind of So I think there's something in that as well that prevents the flourishing of young birders. Maybe that they're scared. Yeah. They're scared what their peers will react, how they'll react.
Yeah, because I can speak from kind of my own personal experience. I can get quite easily self-conscious, when I'm out birding, especially in those really more public parks and those kinds of areas where, you become wary of other people walking past you, and it's you don't want them to see what you're doing. Not that it's weird or anything, but it's you think they might think something, and it can kind of wear you down a little bit on the inside. But I think that's where getting in contact with more people with the passion for birding and wildlife in general. I think getting to be with a few others like you, and then from there, it's not weird or anything. You're with somebody else, and you can share that passion with them, and then you can go out with more confidence. I guess having someone with you, and so you're not as worried on your own as well.
And actually, I do also remember kind of doing that with my binoculars. Instead of having them here, right in front of me, I strap them up around my head and over my shoulders, so they're behind me and not visible to the people.
Yes, I do that too.
Do you do that? I love it. And I haven't done that in a while, because I've grown confident and kind of hey, I can do whatever the hell I want, man. And so that's also something. It's a really valuable lesson as well. In terms of personal growth as well. If you love birding, just do it. Go birding, know. And I think that's a really great way to kind of nurture your personal growth and confidence. And but I used to do that. I haven't done it in a while, because I was at the end of the day, you just do what you love to do, and if that's what birding is to you, then I think there really is something empowering in just going and doing it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I'll also just add as well, because we were saying before, we've met a lot of, older birders as well. And, and these birders are amazing, and they share their knowledge, and they're so nice. And, it's you don't feel that kind of, there's no divide or anything. It's you're just immediately accepted, and you're one of them. You're a birder, so there's no kind of feeling of that at all. And which is really good as well. And I think that's really important to like if you're not sure about anything, and like have that person there to kind of help you along. If you're a beginner birder as well, and not be afraid to to ask questions and that kind of thing. So the older birders definitely serve a really good purpose to help out the younger birders as well, or just any birder starting out. So yeah, that's really important, I think.
Yeah, there's so much to talk about, really. Like and it's also a question of passing on. And I've spoken about this in the podcast before with other guests, like passing on the passion to the next generation. I think that's also kind of an important thing because we're also getting older, and at one stage, it'll happen first to me, but we're not gonna be young birders anymore at some point, and so the question then becomes how do we encourage the next generation's young birders to get out there and go birding? Like, do you think there's anything to be said about, I don't know, programs or groups or like our Coffs Coast Young Birders, which I want to get into later as well. What do you? How can we encourage young people, the up and coming young people, to go birding?
I think with the younger birders, I think it's really, I think it's really just sparking that first light in them. I think because I know there was a birding association in the UK actually who've set up this little kind of team of young birders, and then they get to organize trips and meetings and get other young birders to join in as well, and they get to have a say on stuff and like and really get their voices heard. And I think that's really important, and I'm not sure if there's anything like that here in Australia, but I think when you empower people to come together and then share their love and their passion as well, I think that's really what you need to strike for passing down the gauntlet, and just sharing the love, and going, oh wow, look at that, that's really amazing, the classic kind of, look at that bird, that's, oh man. And once you get that kind of almost like contagious excitement and curiosity, I think that's when you really get to grab them as well, and and show them what it's like, and don't say, oh, this is weird, oh, don't worry about this, but actually let them be exposed to it. And I think definitely with the younger generations, I think there needs to be more of that as well, to really expose them and like share just how amazing birding and wildlife in general is. I think that's the way to go.
Yeah, for sure. And whenever you see it, like maybe in your kids or in your cousins, or if you have family relatives that are younger, and if they, if you can see that they're interested, it's like, wow, yeah, that's really cool, and and you can
encourage them, and then don't go, oh, it's just a bird, and then walk off. Like actually engage with them, especially the younger young birders. Really like get excited with them. Really get pumped.
Exactly right, and I think also kids are very sensitive to neglect. If you neglect a kid that's showing you a picture of a bird or pointing at a bird in the sky, and and they notice you don't pay attention, then it's like, it's
and they don't want to try and ask that or like point that out again. So definitely encourage them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is like, it's all very psychological, most of it, isn't it?
But, in a way.
But the thing, it's just such a fascinating thing, and so I wanna kind of go into our personal little young birders group, which we started how long ago now? A couple of months.
Yeah.
So I just want to kind of briefly mention that because it's been really cool. And if there's anyone listening that's, a young birder, we define young as 14 to 30 years old, but that's just what we thought was all right. But, and even if there's older people listening, if you want to start a birders group, with a logo and with a Facebook page and, start a podcast, it's like, do it, It's like that's the way to spread the word about birding and have a good time and encourage others, like we were talking about. And again, the connectivity of the digital age is a tool that we can use as birders.
Yeah, I mean, we started our own birding group specifically because, we were talking when we first met, and we were like, man, I actually haven't met any other young birders. Guillaume was the first person I've actually ever, met up with for birding specifically, and not just, someone I've run into. That's really important. And I think, because, I just haven't found, nobody at my school had, that kind of flair and interest in wildlife that I knew of either. So it was kind of just me at the moment. And then when we met you, it was like, oh man, actually let's try and start a group. Let's get more people in. Let's try and actually get some, more birding friends in, and, and start something really cool. And I think that's a great way for especially local community to try and get more younger people involved, is, start these groups and, and go out birding in different locations with them, and, and then share that passion. And I think, that's definitely the way to go. But so far, it's just me and you. So we need more people.
It's astounding to me that in the whole of the Coffs Coast, from Nambucca to Woolgoolga, so Jackson, Nambucca, and Woolgoolga, so opposite ends of Coffs Harbour, the city, even on eBird, I haven't found anyone that's our age or who's into birds, that wants to join us on the team. And we might be getting off topic here, but it speaks again to the low numbers of young birders, and I guess it's just a fact. But there you have it.
Yeah. I mean, I did meet one person recently who actually came up from Sydney, and we did a bit of birding together, but he wasn't from around the area. So again, it's we're really kind of few and far between, or at least we just haven't found the other people or haven't reached them yet. So, I'm sure there's definitely people around with that flair and interest, but it's just a matter of, finding them and reaching out and kind of advertising to get them to come along.
Yeah, for sure. And a great way to do that also is on eBird, which we're going to talk about next. I think if you put in your eBird profile, hey, I'm a young birder, this is my email address, this is my number, reach out to me if you want to meet up. And that's how I've met quite a few people birding, and even if to ask about an observation that they've had, or for information, it's really good to make your contact details public. And I know that's, not always the best thing to do, but if you're confident and if you feel it's the right thing for you, then I think that's also a pretty good way to go as well in terms of getting together with other birders.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, there's lots to talk about, and we can pick this up again in another episode. But for the moment, I wanted to shift to eBird. So I know that you are an eBird nut, Jack. So tell me how's your relationship with eBird? How did it start? Why do you love eBird? Let's talk about eBird.
All right. So as I mentioned before, I was introduced to eBird through an American young birder who also had a nature channel where they recorded bird life, and he got me into it, saying, this is really good, you should try it out. And so I started doing it, and I was instantly hooked. So my whole time seriously birding has been through eBird. So I'm a eBirder through and through, as you might say. And I think eBird is such an excellent tool because you can look at different sightings and range maps and distribution. And so you can look at all the hotspots and everything, and you can go, okay, so you can find an abundance of this species here, and you can target different locations and go after them. And I think that's a really good tool to to get more lifers as well. I mean, that's awesome. And, meeting other, or seeing other birders, checklists and observations as well. I think that's really special as well. And, you get to see all the recent sightings and everything and what they see, and through eBird as well. I mean, that's how I found you as well, Guillaume, through your, it was a banded lapwing report. and and then contacted you through that. And so through eBird as well, it's kind of its own platform to get in contact and meet other birders as well. And eBird is it's great. And I love how, especially like on eBird mobile, it records your track and time and everything as well. So it makes birding a lot easier as well. And I very much appreciate the fact that eBird is used for scientific purposes and conservation. And I think that's really incredible. And the power of citizen science is not to be underestimated, because man, it's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, the sheer I think it's got to do with the volume of data that can be generated by citizen scientists, I think. It's just in the sheer numbers. And and one might argue that if it's a bit like Wikipedia, if anyone can edit it, then how do you know it's true? But there's something to be said about the fact that most birders are really competent and know what they're doing and are keen to learn and have an open mind. And there's just something in eBird that enables birders to contribute, as you said, to important conservation research, and it's only going to grow from here, I think. So I also love eBird for sure. It's like I love it. When Jack and I go out, it's like you're the eBirder, because I know that it's like it's so cool. I also like to do it, but it's just a whole world within itself, and it's just great. And when you have the little icons, infrequent or rare, it's like wow,
that little buzz of excitement knowing you've got something a bit less frequent in a particular area.
For sure.
I mean, like we've got similar styles of eBirding as well. Like we like to kind of record and like tally the numbers as we go along. And for me, like I'm that type of birder that's kind of slow, but like really careful to make sure he like sees or like hears exactly all the birds that are around and tries not to miss any of them. And you've got to. For me, it's like I've got to get every single one that I know is there, or else it kind of back to like the truthfulness of it, where you've made sure that you've got everything and it's accurate, and so like getting all the different species as you're going along, like, oh, there's a flock of brown thornbills, let's count how many there are in this bush,
Exactly. I'm like that. And some people are not. Some people like to kind of estimate, which is also okay, and to each their own and stuff. But I also think that
I estimate now and then as well, because I think sometimes you kind of have to, depending on like if it was like a fleeting glimpse of a flock of like maybe 10 or so, but you couldn't count them. So, you can generalize to a rounded off number that, you think accurately represents that total number. And that's like back to the accuracy of like the data and the, for like conservation and other stuff as well, making sure, what you submit is accurate, and I think that's really important.
Absolutely. And I'm also I tend to be quite conservative when I do estimate the numbers, and it's like,
me too.
It probably was about 10, but I'll just put 8. It's like, I was going to say that it speaks into our very high standards. You and I have similar birding standards where it's like, I'm 90% sure that's what it was, but I'm not 100% sure, so not going to count it. It happened with the Pacific Baza that we saw. Or didn't see. But
who knows? But it's like you can, like we've got like the knowledge of like, what the kind of general appearance and look of that bird is. But when you've got like with the Pacific Buzzer that we thought we saw, it was like it was just a black kind of shape flying through the sky. It was late afternoon and we didn't get a good light on it, and it was quite high up as well. So it was a little bit hard to really make out. And even though we were like, that could be a Pacific Buzzer, it's like, are we really certain, 100% sure, have to be, kind of feel like you have to be accurate. You don't want to go on a hunch or like but what if it could have been something else? You have to really, you have to kind of feel it.
I love that.
But that's us, I think.
It's like it's standards, isn't it? And everyone have their own ID standards, and always having a photo helps as well if you can garner any information from the photo. But yeah, I think there's so much to be said for eBird and for again, and that to look back on the young birders situation that we were talking about in the birding community. eBird is also really good because young people are tech savvy and engage with mobile phones, and they know how apps work, and they know how the internet works. They just know this stuff. So apps like eBird could really be a kind of a breeding ground for young birders. You know what I mean? That doesn't sound right, but and that's another way forward for to engage young birders. It's like go the technological route as well. The technological side of things is going to be a good thing, I think, in the future for young birders.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think we're going to start to wrap this up because it's been excellent, and I think that we would like to know a bit more about you, Jack, and our listeners are very engaged with this, I'm sure. If they're listening up until this point, it's like, thanks guys for listening or watching. What's your favorite bird?
Ooh, the age-old question. So, I mean, I don't think I have one favorite. I think there's like a general bunch of like top 5 favorites. At the moment, the black bittern and the sooty owl are up there as some of my favorite Australian birds, at least. I love their plumage. I think the dark colorations are beautiful, and exquisite birds. Yeah.
Wow, beautiful. And so have you seen those or not?
No, both of those would be lifers still. So I'd be very looking forward to seeing both of those at one point. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed for sure. And I think it's a different question as well. Like, what's your favorite bird, and like, what's your dream bird that you'd love to see? Like, would that be the same answer, or do you have like a mythical dream bird that you'd like to get?
Ooh, yeah. I mean, those two birds as well. They'd be, dream birds to get. But I think as well as that, like thinking for up and coming birds, which I'd love to try and, go for like target species. I'd love to see a rufous scrub bird, just because how kind of cryptic and small and brown they are, but also kind of how mythical they are, and how like it's like a little fantasy kind of bird, and it's beautiful, like right up in the high mountain ranges of the Great Dividing Range, in this small little distribution, and I think that's just, there's something about that I love, seeing a small bird found only in one space, like little one area, and it's endemic. And I think that's just amazing. So that would be a dream bird. But then like an international dream bird, one of which would be the shoebill, I reckon, just because, man, that bird is prehistoric, really, and I think it's just a majestic bird, and I'd love to go to Africa and like other places as well around the world at one point, if I have the chance, and like really see and appreciate these birds and like these different parts of the world. I think that's another really cool thing about the joy of birding, seeing species found nowhere else in the world, and it's that's really special.
Yeah. Oh, the shoebill. What a bird! Like, I remember seeing that. It's on a David Attenborough, one of his earlier ones. And how it lunges. And I think it's a species of heron, isn't it? Is it?
I think it's I think at least a genus or family all to its own, I think, at the moment, just because I'm not sure how the classification is on it so far. I don't think anyone's particularly sure from what I've heard.
Yeah. I seem to remember reading somewhere that it was related to herons in some sense, but I mean those weird birds. Like for me, I spoke about this with Scott Baker a couple of episodes ago in season 1 about the ibis bill in the Himalayan foothills.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's my dream bird. Like that would be epic to see. So many cool birds. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Endless potential.
And that's why we love birding, and that's kind of why I started the podcast, as you know. And spoiler alert, Jack and I are also going to start another separate podcast that will try and make work soon.
Yeah.
So stay tuned, everyone. And yeah, I think that's about it for this episode. Do you have any last words, Jack? Anything to say to our thousands of listeners? Not thousands.
Not really. Thanks for listening. Stay tuned for more of Guillaume's amazing episodes on the Birding Today podcast.
Thanks, bro. That's really nice of you. So
no worries.
We'll see you next time on the podcast. And thanks for listening, everyone. And don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel so you can watch these episodes, on video, because it's cool to kind of also have the video version. Other than that, follow the Facebook page, the Birding Today podcast. I'm also on Twitter, Birding Today, Instagram, Birding Today. So do all those things if you want, and that'd be great. So thank you, everyone, and thanks so much, Jack, for coming on. I really appreciate it, mate.
That's all good. Thank you.
All right. See ya. You have been listening to the Birding Today podcast. New episodes are released every Friday, and if you'd like to get in touch, just write an email to birdingtoday@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and see you next time. Woo! We did it. That was cool. That was awesome, man.